I remember you at Cranfield pitching an idea to me for a business.
That's right.
And Ale won the competition, which was about a million years ago, wasn't it? 11 years ago. So would you like to explain what happened after that day?
That's where I got my first check as an investment. Yeah, so after Cranfield, I set up this business that provides a CV checking service to employers. We mainly help employers to reduce the risk of hiring the wrong person, because that person is perhaps exaggerating on their CV, to put it mildly, in some cases. But it's not just when it comes to recruiting of employees. It can be it's a service that is helping reducing any type of hiring. It could be you want to hire a new contractor, you want to hire a new client, or you want to do a partnership with someone. They present to you their CV in this format or another with claims. I have this experience, I have those qualifications. In order to reduce the risk, you have to go through the figures, and you have to go through the facts. You have to check them thoroughly and then make your hiring decision. If you only do it based on how well the person comes in the interview, you're taking a risk that someone can really talk the talk but not walk the walk. So essentially that's what we're doing, or that's what Verified does. And after that, after the course I've done at Cranfield, I raised money from friends and family, mainly students that studied with me on that course, obtained our first clients, and started to roll this business. Today we have 1,500 clients worldwide, and business is growing 50% year on year in the last couple of years. And it's really taking off. It's an amazing experience to see how we're changing the recruitment for the companies that are using us, how we are adding trust in the process, how we are reducing negative outcomes, increasing morals in certain companies, because suddenly people that being hired really living up to the expectations, and so on and so forth.
So what you're saying is, you basically, anyone in this room who's applying for a job with one of your clients will be checked out.
That's right.
They will verify, what's you verifying, school, university, degree, class of degree?
We verify, if I need to classify it, we would verify two types of facts about you. What you would put on your CV, and that is employment, education mainly, and it could be licenses if that's relevant, for memberships. And the other one is what's your background has in terms of criminal records, credit, even your identity, driving license points. It could be quite an extensive list of checks. In addition, we can also check what the internet has to say about you. And that's quite an interesting search on its own. Some people may get a job, for example. The company will quickly put a press release out. We hired a new vice president, whatever. And when you're actually checking the person, that job doesn't appear on the CV. Instead, the person was, 3 months on holiday in the Bahamas. So when you investigate into that, you see that they've been perhaps dismissed, or something didn't obviously went that well with that particular job. So it's very important when anyone writes their own CV that they will check what, say Google, to make it easy on you, what Google has to say about you, because that's what an employer would check, and likely to cross-reference with your official CV. Personally, I would do much more. I would actually try to obtain the references myself from my previous employers to make sure that the dates are correct and make sure that the grades are correct. We do find quite a lot of, especially young people, I must say, that are increasing their grades, let's say, by 1 or 2 across the board. So, I don't know, a DCB becomes a CBA, and it's quite common, unfortunately. And when they're being caught, they're saying, well, career advice told us it would be a good idea to do that. So one has to be very careful with how they are representing themselves. And I think that to a large extent, the media that you will choose, whether it's LinkedIn or a paper CV or even a video CV, dictates the message, but the facts behind that message really have to be accurate.
The two of you, excuse me, I don't know. Where do you see people making the 2 or 3 biggest mistakes in relatively short time? So,
yeah, well, I'd say on the internet there will be positive things about you, negative things about you, and neutral things about you. So your job is to make sure there are more positive things. And so the more material that's positive that you can generate yourself or leverage yourself, then the more positive you will look. The problem is when we look at things from IELTS perspective, is there's like the immediately visible internet, which is Google, but there's the internet which isn't quite visible, like the DTI, or Companies House, or Company Check. And for £1 or 2, it's not that difficult for someone to actually find your director's record. And as IELTS says, they can go back and check exactly when you were appointed, or for instance, if you've ever had to mortgage your house or whatever, on a commercial basis. So this is all visible. Eventually, but the idea is to make sure that you've made the most of the opportunity to look positive on the internet.
and what about hiding yourself? We hear about Google and privacy. Is that something you should, if there's something there that is, well, is it wise to actually try and hide bits of your life?
If somebody saw my slide, on every personal search now, you'll see this search may have been modified if it's a personal search. And that's a Google disclaimer. But the interesting thing is that, of course, Google has to comply with the right to be forgotten. But if you've got a story that goes back years that appeared in the Mail or the local newspaper, they're not under the same obligation. So I'm sure somebody with IELTS diligence will actually find that negative information anyway. So, but the idea is to make sure that top-end information is as positive as possible.
And so let's take it to an extreme. You've committed a terrible crime. And it's got the right to be forgotten if you're served your time. In that scenario, what do you do?
Well, if you committed a terrible crime, in this country at least, the criminal records will become spent after a while. That while depends on a lot of different factors. Whilst it is unspent, you have to declare it if you're being asked. If you're being asked and you say that you don't have convictions, and later that will come up in a police search, you can, in most cases, at least in the cases that we're dealing with, you can probably say goodbye to the opportunity. If the conviction is spent when you are being asked about it, you can basically say, no, I don't have unspent convictions, and that will be absolutely correct. However, if you're going to a certain role where that rule doesn't apply, because maybe you're working with children, vulnerable adults, or in another regulated role, it's very common in the finance industry, for example, they will ask you for spent convictions and you have to disclose it. So there is no way to run away. You can try to hide everything from Google with the right of forgotten, but if someone will do a police search, it will come up. So you have to consider all that in advance before even making an application, because if you're making an application for a regular role and you have a conviction that will prevent you from taking that role, why bother? But something else which is really also important is there is another side to it. If you have lied on your CV, and you went for a regulated role, especially in the finance industry, they will put you on a blacklist for 3 years. And all other banks and institutions that are using this blacklist as part of the recruitment process will simply not hire you. So it's really, really becoming extra important to get the facts right. Again, the media that you're choosing is less important from that point of view, but the facts that you're presenting are, can make or break an application.
So omission is not necessarily a good idea.
Depends what. Give you an example where omission can be acceptable. If you have a PhD and you're going for a job that doesn't require a PhD, and perhaps someone would even question why someone with a PhD wants to come to this job, maybe you can omit it, and it's not that it's not going to cause you a big problem. However, if you are omitting something which is crucial for the role, or even inventing something, say buying a PhD from a bogus university, which is a topic these days, then that can make a break.
So just quickly, does anyone have any sort of particular burning issues about how they should be presenting themselves? Albert?
So it's slightly different. There was a question about false statements by competitors. How can you check them out? For example, one competitor to a company I'm working with said one of their clients was one of the top 4 accounts companies. We asked the top 4 accounts company, do you know these people? They've never heard of them.
So,
Is there anything you can do about that?
If someone is lying, go to trading standard.
okay, yes.
Well, my name's Paul Williams, which is the first problem because about 10 million of us are you don't stand out that. The other thing is that the more time you spend as a director, the closer you are, the more the information about what you do is company confidential or covered by non-disclosure agreements. So my LinkedIn profile and my CV end up being very bland because I can't talk. My client doesn't want to publish what the problem was. Or if it's an acquisition or a sale that you go through, like they don't want to pay.
Can you hear that? Because what we're saying is that the more important you get, the more likely it is that what you're doing is sensitive stroke, confidential stroke, commercially, you don't want it revealed, which by default means your CV becomes more and more bland.
One of the interesting things about LinkedIn is if you do a name search, it'll tell you the number of people on LinkedIn with that name. So I've got 19 people with my name. And when I first started out, there was a famous hydrologist from Dublin with exactly the same spelling as me, always came top. He died. So immediately I started climbing above him. but the point would be is that not everyone that's called, is it Paul Williams, has got the ability with your expertise. So it's not the fact that you're Paul Williams that's relevant, it's Paul Williams who solves companies, Paul Williams that can solve an HR problem. So that's the key. It's coming top or being visible for the problems that companies have that they've got to solve now. Yeah.
I don't have the problem of other people with my name. Yeah. Right, yes, there we go, over here.
How is it possible to check what Aon will find out about us? I mean, so we know in advance what a prospective employer might find out. So you actually only so one knows whether it's correct. Fair is a different issue, of course, but mainly let's talk about accuracy.
All right. So each employer that at least we work with will disclose to their applicants what checks they are going to do on them. And when the candidates, the applicants, is engaging with us, we will also display exactly the checks that we are going to conduct, asking them to give consent. So everything that we do, as opposed to a private investigator, is done A, with the consent of the applicant, B, fully transparent. So it's a sort of process which is done on the table with full knowledge, full visibility. There are no tricks here. Nobody is trying to fail the applicant, if that makes sense. Whereas when you engage with a private investigator as a company, a lot of the time you do try to do those checks without consent, without knowledge, for different reasons. And of course, maybe you do want to fail someone. The process for checking CVs for employment or similar engagements is usually done transparently, at least with us.
So can I, as an individual, come to your firm and say, as a matter of interest, can you check my records?
No, we can do it, but we don't do it as a matter of principle. We don't really want to engage with individuals. The whole invoicing, the whole financial arrangement is just not making it worthwhile for us to do that. We work with companies, I'm just saying it honestly, we work with companies that have ongoing recruitments. They will have from a dozen a month to thousands a month. We work with on a retainer basis, basically. Thank you.
I think the lady with that's a quick question.
Just a quickie. Aya, when do you tend to carry, or when do clients request these checks are taken? Is it when somebody's been offered a position, or is it when they're at interview stage? What's the running the process?
Most, I would say 99% of our clients will do it on the offer stage. So when there is a verbal acceptance, they will engage with us.
And do you have like a database whereby, say I went for a job, just hypothetically Joe Blogs, and you check me out, and then randomly I went for a job with Jack Blogs, am I still on your database?
You are, but we are not allowed to use it. So we are keeping the data for the first employer. We can't really sell the data for the second employer. We'll have to redo the checks. Plus, certain checks are time bound. So if I check that you have approval to act as a solicitor with the Law Society, tomorrow you may not. So certain checks really they are good for the data being done.
Good. Right, I'm going to end this because we're running late, but very quickly, how many of you think the paper CV's dead? Only a very small 5% of people. Okay, well maybe next year we'll do that vote again and see what people think. Thank you very much. I hope you found that really interesting. I bet you did.